across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening and welcome to Question Time. In the audience, the live audience, we have a load of left-wingers, and this week, by special demand, we have a load of small boat migrants as well. People who broke into the country illegally now being treated like fine, upstanding citizens by Fiona, Bruce and the state broadcaster. Isn't that special? Good evening, though, and welcome to, this is my real introduction, by the way. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views, debate, fury and fun. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Friday, December the 5th. Here's what's coming up. Nigel Farage's fury as he demands the BBC apologises for decades of racist broadcasting. His logic being that if he is to be vilified for dubious things he may or may not have allegedly said when he was a 13-year-old schoolboy in 1976, the state broadcaster should say sorry for programmes it was screening in that era, such as the Black and White Minstrel Show, where white people put on blackface to sing gospel songs. Till Death Us Do Part with Alf Garnett, who used the N-word and the C-word throughout every single episode. It ain't half hot, mum. Particularly homophobic. And comedies featuring the late Bernard Manning. Hasn't Nigel Farage got a point? His point being those were different times. The BBC as susceptible to those different times as he might have been when he was a little boy. And attacking a little boy, adults are attacking a little boy here. That's the size of it. It may be the 13-year-old Nigel Farage in 1976 is now being ganged up upon by a bunch of adults, mostly from the BBC and The Guardian. That, folks, in my mind, is sinister, don't you think? 0344 499 1000. And the topic of BBC bias is now the burning issue of the moment after last night's extraordinary edition of Question Time, which, filmed on the front line of the migrant crisis in Dover, had small boat migrants in the audience. Yay! 2 of whom got to put their questions to the panel. These are people who broke into the country illegally. Should they really be treated like fine, upstanding pillars of the community? 0344 499 1000. Still with Question Time, which star of the show, Fiona Bruce, insists goes to the ends of the earth to ensure a balanced live audience. Yeah, right. Last night's panel boasted the esteemed political genius of Green Party leader Zach Polanski, who framed his argument in favour of opening Britain's borders to mass immigration in just about the most disgusting way imaginable. Did he really have to refer to wiping bums? What's wrong with this guy? 0344 499 1000. In other news, shock plans for an all-Muslim city in Texas, while Donald Trump imperiously warns Europe about civilization erasure. I think he's got a point, by the way. Should we pray for America too? 0344 499 1000. Plus, Meghan Markle's apparent cruel indifference as her 81-year-old dad's leg is amputated amid his desperate fight to survive in a Philippines hospital. Is she just going to ignore him? He could die, this poor old guy, 81 years old. Is she really still going to ignore him? What do you think? 0344 499 1000. And finally, as Putin runs scared after America's super sanctions threat, but vows he's ready for war with Europe, the truth about the Russian tyrant's sex life and his unimaginable wealth. Also, the big question, an author's going to be talking to us, the big question is, with America poised to completely pull out of the Ukraine conflict, how will Europe defend itself? It's going to become one of the big questions coming along in the next few years. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday night together. The weekend starts here, folks, but not yet. By the way, 9 o'clock, I almost forgot, very important this, at 9 o'clock it's my TV show, What Just Happened. That'll go from 9 until 10, and then something else will happen. Who cares? No. Andre Walker and Ash Gould will be taking over the helm of the Good Ship Talk, and they'll take you through to 1 a.m, so much still to come. I'll tell you about my What Just Happened show a little later, probably at sort of almost tedious length, boasting about how brilliant I am and how fantastic that show is. 9 o'clock, 9 until 10, and tomorrow morning, as of about 9:30, it's on YouTube any time you like. So, what just happened? That's later. What's going to happen now, though? I'm going to be talking for the next, couple of hours to the great political strategist, my Friday friend, Pete Barnes. Welcome, Pete.
Hi, Kev. How's it going?
All right, mate.
Yeah.
Lots to talk about.
Busy week again.
Always. There I was last night thinking, what the hell are we going to do tomorrow night's show? And I just got back from work and I thought, I'll watch Question Time. And within about 3 minutes, I said, that's sorted out what we'll do tomorrow night's show.
It's very much the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
It was extraordinary. Well, this really is beginning to become the BBC bias, the BBC pillorying of Nigel Farage over this ludicrous nonsense about what he did when he was 13 years old. It's like I say, imagine this, folks. Brendan O'Neill pointed this out. There's something sinister about this. OK, Nigel Farage is 61 years old now. But who are the BBC and The Guardian and all the lefties attacking? Who are they attacking? Of course, they're trying to sully Nigel Farage's name. They're trying to smear him. But who are they attacking? They're attacking a 13-year-old little boy. That's who they're attacking. That Nigel Farage in 1966, the little boy in the playground. That's who they're attacking. That, to me, is sinister and sick. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Well, on that topic, we'll get to Question Time in just a second, but it's worth revisiting Nigel's fury yesterday at a press conference. This was after his deputy, Richard Tice, had been on the Today programme, Radio 4 flagship daily news programme, that morning and been asked, is Nigel Farage lying about what he said in the playground? And Richard Tice said no. I mean, what I think Nigel Farage is saying, I've been thinking about this, Pete. I've been thinking about this. Genuinely. I mean, I'll admit it. I'm sort of not that far off the same sort of age as Nigel Farage. I mean, obviously I'm about 20 years younger, but seriously, I've been thinking about it when I was at school. I'm thinking, can I remember actually a single thing I can remember scenes at school. I can remember, teachers whacking me around the backside with a cane. That's what used to happen when I was... I can remember things like that. I can remember playing football. I can remember scenes in the playground, fights I had with other kids. I cannot remember... I genuinely cannot remember a single statement, a single word I ever said. Can you, Pete?
No, not a single one.
I did much closer. You're even older than I am. Seriously.
No, but in all seriousness...
you're much younger than me, but...
I barely remember. I think this is the preposterousness of it, but you have to remember the BBC just got a bit of a moral kicking, didn't it, over the Donald Trump thing. They're looking to reclaim their moral superiority, and they're striking out at the easy target for them, and that's Nigel Farage. That's what this is. They took a kicking, they got their reputation dragged through the mud, they got caught with doing the wrong thing, and now they need to kind of climb back on that moral ladder.
I think it's... yes, I agree with that, but I think it's a bit more than that. It is the left-wing establishment, the Guardian and the BBC, the clarions of our left-wing establishment, can see their cosy little controlling world being evaporated by the forces of reform, but by the very impressive Nigel Farage. Whatever you think about him, he is damned impressive, a great performer in public, as he proved yesterday in a furious tirade at this press conference to a BBC reporter. Oh, Mr. Tice said you lied when you didn't lie when you were at school. Is that true? And Nigel sort of lost it, but in a very controlled way. Let's remind ourselves of this remarkable moment, actually.
This morning, Richard Tice said on the radio, he was asked about the comments made by schoolmates of yours who have said that comments you made they viewed as racist and offensive. He said that they were lying. You have said before that you did make comments. It may have been banter. It wasn't directly racially abusing anyone. So Richard Tice is wrong, isn't he?
I thought this morning's performance by one of your lower grade presenters on the Today programme was utterly disgraceful. I think to frame a question around the leader of Reform's relationship with Hitler, which is how she framed it, was despicable, disgusting, beyond belief. Are you surprised that 500,000 people every year refuse to pay the licence fee? But let me say this to you. The double standards and hypocrisy of the BBC are absolutely astonishing. At the time I was alleged to have made these remarks, one of your most popular weekly shows was the Black and White Minstrels, right? The BBC were very happy to use blackface. Oh, and not just in the Black and White Minstrels, you did it in It Ain't Half Hot Mum as well. And what about Alf Garnett? Do you remember what he called Marigold? Do you remember the word he used to describe Marigold on not live, but on primetime national TV? I better not repeat the word, otherwise you'll all use it and say that I used it. Homophobia? It ain't half hot, Mum. Are you being served? Oh, and what about Bernard Manning? Perfectly happy at exactly the same time for Bernard Manning to appear on primetime national BBC comedy, telling jokes for which these days you'd probably get a knock at the door from our thought police and perhaps get a 31-month prison sentence. I cannot put up with the double standards of the BBC about what I'm alleged to have said 49 years ago and what you were putting out on mainstream content. So I want an apology from the BBC for virtually everything you did throughout the 1970s and 80s. And I will respond to your direct question. I've received many letters over the course of the last few days from people that I was at school with. This one I think is particularly relevant. I was a Jewish pupil at Dulwich College at the same time, and I remember him very well. While there was plenty of macho, tongue-in-cheek schoolboy banter, it was humour. And yes, sometimes it was offensive, rather like most of the BBC's output, but never with malice. I never heard him racially abuse anyone. If he had, he would have been reported and punished. He wasn't. The news stories are without evidence except for belatedly politically dubious recollections from nearly half a century ago. Back in the 1970s, the culture was very different. Perhaps, Damon, you should reflect on that. Especially at Dulwich. Lots of boys said things they'd regret today, or just laugh at. Whilst Nigel stood out, he was neither aggressive nor a racist. If I can help in any way, let me know. And I've had plenty of those messages over the course of the last few days, and I'm sick to death of the double standards and hypocrisy, above all, of your organisation. And what happened on the Today programme this morning was a complete bloody disgrace. Next, Sam Coates from Sky News. No, I'm done with you, thank you.
My question was, he said they were lying, and it sounds like...
Sam Coates from Sky... I'm really, until you apologise for all of your output, your appalling output, at the same time that I'm accused of saying these things which I deny, I'm not speaking to you. All right? Sam Coates, Sky News.
I think that's an an unassailable argument. It really, really is. He's obviously thought this through. It's a very clever argument, and it's unassailable. It's true. I mean, these programs he's talking about, I mean, I remember them. I kind of grew up with them. Until Death Us Do Part. I can remember some of the things they said in that. I mean, the C word and the N word were frequent. Ain't Half Hot Mum was not only racist, it was also deeply homophobic. The Black and White Minstrel Show, which didn't end until 1978, didn't realise it went on that long, featured white people putting on blackface and singing songs like Al Jolson in sort of fake kind of southern gospel voices. The whole thing was about, a sort of demeaning racial look at the deep south of America. Extraordinary. And Bernard Manning, it was actually, I knew Bernard Manning, he was from my Fleet Street career. I mean, a lot of people didn't like his material. I understand that. He was a very nice man, did a lot for charity, really, really did. I know that sounds like a cliche, but he was a nice man. He had a rather acerbic approach to, shall we say, the racial divide. But he was often on the BBC, regular guest, used as a comedian, stand-up comedian on the BBC. They didn't mind his material then. It's a good point, isn't it? It's a very good point. Let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's go to break now, and then we'll concentrate after the break on what happened last night in the most bizarre, extraordinary edition of Question Time, I think, in that programme's long and allegedly impressive history.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, let's talk about question time. Last night I tuned in. It was in Dover on the front line of the migrant crisis. Little personal note. For a few years I lived in Dover when I was a kid. I went to Dover Grammar, and that hall that was in, I used to play five-a-side when I was a little boy there, so it was very nostalgic for me. But then the actual events of the programme rather overshadowed my reminiscences. It was unbelievable. Zia Yousaf has said that BBC packed the audience with actual illegal migrants, you know, with people who came across the channel in small boats. Let's go through some. We'll discuss it in a minute, but we've got lots of clips that we ought to show you. So let's go through them quickly, and Pete and I will discuss them afterwards. Well, first of all, here is an asylum seeker questioning Reform UK's Zia Yousaf, who was on the panel. Zia Yousaf was on the panel. The bizarre, hilarious Dover MP, Labour MP, Mike Tack, is just a sort of human joke. Talking of which, at least he's funny. There was another human joke on the panel as well who's not funny. That was Zach Polanski, the Green Party leader, who's just like kind of on another planet. I'll say this about him. He's a good performer. He's a good talker. I can see why he's scoring a success for the Green Party, but Christ, he talks some rubbish. And last night, frankly, he was disgusting. We'll show you that in a minute. Something to look forward to, isn't it? Right, first of all, here's an asylum seeker questioning Zia Yousaf from Reform.
So the man in the white shirt, now I know you came over on a small boat. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
What's your response to what you're hearing? Because obviously everyone is talking about people like you.
Well, let me say something first. I just want to clear that leaving the convention doesn't just affect the migrants. It would give ordinary people one less court, to protect their rights. Even for weekend checks and the government power, risk on peace settlement in Northern Ireland and damage our security cooperation. Do you think this,
I'll happily answer that question. My parents came here legally. They did not come here illegally. And look, there's a clear dividing line in British politics. If you're watching this at home and you want to vote for a party that will prioritise the interests of foreign nationals who came here illegally, or do you want to vote for a party that are going to prioritise British citizens who work hard, set their alarm clocks in the evening before going to bed and toil to pay tax money?
That is not the dividing line. That is not the dividing line in British politics right now.
Do you know how much money the British taxpayer
had to pay? There are other choices available.
Do you know how much money the British taxpayers had to pay for universal credit payments alone for foreign nationals last year? That was £10 billion.
Do you know how much an asylum seeker gets a week?
Hang on, if you're talking, no one can hear.
£49 a week. £49 a week. This is what this man wants to take off you.
29, British taxpayers will be spending half the forecast defence budget on universal credit alone for foreign nationals. There's nothing about that that's remotely acceptable, and I'm sorry, we will stick up for British citizens who pay their taxes.
Old Zia was definitely ganged up upon last night, and you heard Zelensky in the background saying, £49 a week, that's what this man wants to take off of you. That's the £49 a week benefits that we immediately give every foreigner who breaks into our country illegally, having come across the channel illegally on a small boat. We immediately give them £49 a week benefits. Zach Polanski, they want to take that off you. Yes, Zach, that's exactly what we want to do. That's exactly what the vast majority of people in this country want to do, because it doesn't make any sense. Here's since then, Zia has posted a video on X, on Twitter. Here he is recalling his strange night on Question Time.
Last night was one of the most surreal and extraordinary experiences of my entire life. I was a panellist on BBC Question Time, their immigration special. And guess what? The BBC, in their infinite wisdom, literally brought people who had come to the country illegally into the audience.
Can you just... So you came over from Afghanistan on a small boat in the last 4 or 5 years, I think.
Yes, I come.
It's amazing, isn't it? Here's another asylum seeker ambushing Zia Yusuf.
Well, actually, we have some men in the audience who came over on small boats and are former asylum seekers. So since you mentioned that, let's hear from one of them. So, Ashraf, where are you sitting? Ashraf, there you are. Can you just... So you came over from Afghanistan on a small boat in the last 4 or 5 years, I think.
Yes, I come from Afghanistan.
So was the UK where you wanted to claim asylum, and did you try and claim asylum in other countries on the way?
I applied for asylum. I was a refugee, and I passed many interviews in different countries.
So tell us which country did you try to claim asylum in?
My first interview was in Turkey, and the second one in Macedonia, in Serbia, in Romania, Austria, and recently in Germany, but that ain't in here.
So you applied for asylum in all those countries, what, and they all turned you down?
These countries just reject me, and they didn't accept me.
So what do you say to the woman here who says, why is it the men that are coming, and what about their families? Why did you come on your own, and what about the fact that so many men are coming?
Everybody knows my country is not safe for us. We have a war, about 15 years we are living in the war. Because of that, we come here, and I just want to leave, and because of that I come here.
So Zia, when you hear a story like that, for example, do you think that someone like Ashraf, despite the fact he's fleeing a war, and there are many wars around the country, in fact, you know, can't take everybody, they shouldn't be able to come?
Yeah, well, I don't know enough about that particular individual story, so I'll comment more broadly.
But in terms of
I think in terms of broad strokes, let me be clear. If you're entering a war zone, it's generally men first. If you're fleeing a war zone, it's generally women and children first. And the vast majority of the people coming to this country via the English...
And so on and so forth. And, you know, that guy's story is so typical. He gets rejected by Turkey, Germany. Everywhere he goes, he gets rejected. He's going, well, where shall I go? Oh, I know, I'll go to the sucker country, the stupidest country on earth, the country that nearly always says yes to everyone. I know, that's Britain. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
My question is, why did he get rejected? And that, you know, what were the grounds to which he was rejected from? Because, you know, we've had lots of incidences where people have been rejected because they're not particularly good people. And obviously we have a culture of saying yes to literally everyone. We don't know anything about them.
But it is an interesting story that he gets rejected. Of course, arrives in Britain and doesn't get rejected because I don't know how long he's been here. He probably arrived during the period before about 3 years ago when we were granting 76% of all asylum applications. We were allowing 76% of everyone who asked to stay to stay. Now we've got that down to a draconian 48%. It's not still by far and away the highest percentage on the face of the planet. No other country lets 48% of asylum applicants to stay. Very few other countries have per capita as many migrants coming into their country as Britain. That is the madness in which we subsist.
Yes, without a doubt. But I find it interesting that Fiona Bruce hit the kind of emotional blackmail question, right? When you hear a story like that. What I'd like to Fiona Bruce to answer the questions about what do you have to say to the residents of people like Crowborough, for example, whose town has been decimated, to the 14-year-old girl who was sexually assaulted by a migrant hotel. Where's the compassion for those people? Where's the question time episode for them? That's the big point here, is that yet again the balance is just not there. And this was just a setup to try and catch out Zia, but luckily Zia's quite a capable media performer, and I think he knew what was coming around the corner.
He
really did.
He made mincemeat of Mike Tapp, who kept sort of pressing.
Well, to be honest, that's so difficult.
Mike Tapp is mincemeat. Now, moving on, we're going to stick with this for now because we're going to go on for another 5 minutes or so, which is rather longer than we wanted to. But this was such a bizarre edition of Question Time that I think might be a turning point. I think really the BBC is going to have to start seriously looking at itself after this. So the argument was, oh, let them all in, you know. It got Zach Polanski, Mike Tapp, oh, these poor people, you know, they're fleeing war and torture. They're coming from France. There isn't any war and torture in France. This is the Green Party leader on why we should let migrants in, because so many of them do the jobs that Brits would not do. So many of them fulfil very important roles. I kind of agree with this to an extent, you know, in the care industry and, of course, in the health industry. Here is Zach explaining that in quite the most revolting way imaginable. Take it away, Zach.
Most people in this audience and watching this at home will have had an experience of a care worker. 1 in 5 care workers are foreign nationals. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't particularly want to wipe someone's bum. And I'm very grateful for the people who do this work, this really important work, whether it's in the care sector, whether it's in the NHS.
I'll tell you what he does. He doesn't want to wipe anyone's bum, but he doesn't mind pretending to hypnotise them to increase the size of their busts, which is what he used to do for a living, con man. And you know, what a disgusting thing to say.
It's awful, but it doesn't surprise me, because I go back to, there was an episode of Question Time just after Brexit where the lady said, well, who's going to serve me my coffee in Pret? This is the point, is the people that are doing all this moralising are actually the biggest snobs going, and they're looking down on people. They're not actually kind of supporting them. I find it's just a perversion, really. But this Zach Polanski guy, you're right, he's a bit of a player, but he's just shown just what a horrible person he is. He's just ridiculous that yet again we're fawning over him because the BBC kind of likes him.
Oh, yeah, he gets on all the time. But he, you know, he is a good talker. He's got a sort of pleasant aura about him.
I don't think he does.
Well, he's an aggressive lefty, but you know, he does. I get it. I can see why he's, because talking to a sort of captive audience, he's going to get all the lefties. A lot of lefties going over from Labour to the extreme lefties. The Green Party's migration policy, by the way, what they really want is to abolish borders altogether, but in a sort of rare and tiny nod to reality. These are their policies: to implement a fair and humane system of managed immigration. It's okay, I suppose. Treat all migrants as if they are citizens. Oh, God. I know, that's just stupid. Give all residents, and that means migrants, since they get the right to vote. That is even stupider. Help families to be together. That means as soon as Abdul gets here next week, he can bring his wife and his 7 children. Dismantle the Home Office. Do they actually mean the building? Or...
See, that's what I'm not necessarily against.
But, I mean, you know, much as the Home Office, as we always like to say, isn't fit for purpose, it's useless. But you do rather need a Home Office. You know, they call it the Home Security Department in America. This is the department that kind of runs the domestic country. So dismantling the Home Office, I don't quite get that. And abolish the no recourse to public funds condition. Abolish the 10-year route to settlement. Stop the profiteering from application fees. Stop putting people in prison because of their immigration status. Accept our responsibility for the climate emergency and support the people forced to move. This is this claptrap about it's the climate emergency that is making people flee rather, you know, kind of hot regions of the earth. Absolute claptrap. Most of these people who turn up here are grifters. They're chancers. They've heard about the promised land. You know, they probably go around. You know, for these people, lots of them, 50 quid a week. I mean, they couldn't dream of earning 50 quid in a year. Imagine them going around to... I've heard tell that if you can get across the English Channel, get to Calais, they'll give you 50 quid a week free. Also, 4-star hotels, free food, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers to fight your case to stay, and so on and so. Free driving lessons, free trips to the zoo, free trampoline lessons, and so on and so forth. No wonder yonder they come. But thank you, Zach. Thank you for your input.
Let's not forget they call Keir Starmer the kind one.
Yeah,
There's a
of
reason
course
for that.
they do. Across the pond, Kelly Osborne, a sort of American Brit, daughter of Sharon Osborne, friend of mine, lovely lady. Our heart goes out to her because poor Ozzy died so recently. So also to Kelly, lost her dad, so she deserves our sympathy as well. But she went on to the programme over there called The View, and she made a sort of point about Donald Trump wants to get rid of all migrants in America. And she sort of made a Zelensky-type point. So it seems to be the trend now, making your point about migrants in the most disgusting way possible. If you want to support migrants, be disgusting. Take it away, Kelly.
If you kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Oh, that's no.
In the sense that, you know what I mean? Like when I'm saying
there's more jobs to be
in LA. They always
but they Latinos are not only the only people.
I didn't mean it like that. Come on, no, I would never mean it like that.
Okay,
like, I'm not part of this argument. With
I think what you're saying is that Trump himself
needs to look
probably relies on a lot of these people that he's insulting.
I think.
So, according to Kelly, that's why you have migrants, so you can get someone to clean your toilets. Now, I have to say, I would never say that, but, you know, I lived in LA 10 years or so, and the Mexicans, I mean, the big question there is, well, who would you get to mow your lawn? They do all the gardens. You know, Los Angeles, California, but certainly Los Angeles is a city that if it was deprived of its illegal migrants, it's illegal Mexicans, it would grind to a halt.
Yeah.
They do 75% of the manual work.
Yeah, it's a
that's
sloppy
the point she's making.
It's a sloppy
my point
argument.
is that we know about that, but that's a disgusting way of making
Oh, it
the
is. It's an
argument.
awful way. But yet again, that these people live so far removed from the lives that are going to be actually affected in the communities where illegal migrants live. That's the reality of it. She lives in a nice little gated community, probably a nice mansion and all the rest of it. She's so far removed from the impact that illegal migration has on public services that they just don't understand what they're talking about. They think they're trying to help people, and in fact they're just making people miserable.
And that's a very demeaning, patronising thing to say. If we don't let migrants in, who are we going to get to clean our toilets? That's disgusting. Just as it's disgusting for Zach Polanski to say, if we don't let migrants in, who are we going to get to wipe people's bums in care homes? This is patronising, it's disgusting, and they should think of better ways to frame their arguments. Let me know what you think about all of that. Last night's extraordinary question time, Nigel Farage's fury at the Beeb, and the way these people, these lefties, are framing their arguments about migrants. 0344 499 1000. Now, when we come back today, Donald Trump said that we in Britain have to, or in Europe, we must worry greatly about civilization erasure, as he put it. Civilizational erasure. Is there such a word as civilizational? But civilizational erasure. In other words, what he's saying is you're letting so many foreigners in, you know, from sub-Saharan Africa, from the Middle East, Muslim people from foreign cultures. You are diluting European civilization, European culture, to the point that it will be destroyed. He said 20 years. Now, I've got a lot of sympathy with his fears. I think we do have to think about this, particularly in this country. We do have to think about this. We've got to be careful. But, you know, thank you very much, Donald. In Texas, there are well-advanced plans to build America's first Muslims-only city. It was going to be called Epic City. But as protests grew about it, the planners changed the name to the far more nice-sounding The Meadow. But this is, we'll show you the pictures, in Texas. It is planned this will be a Muslim-only city. So when Donald Trump talks to us about civilizational erasure, should we pray for America too? You've got your own problems, Don, haven't you? That next, stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, so Donald Trump warns European nations that we are under threat of civilizational erasure, and unless we do something about mass migration, mass immigration, we will be unrecognizable within the next 20 years. I think it's a timely warning, and I think we should take that very seriously. But maybe you should think about the plank in your own eye, Donald, because I'll tell you one thing, what we don't have is any all-Muslim cities. And I don't want any jokes about Birmingham, thank you very much. Yeah, we got some cities that aren't far off. But they are planning to build in a rural area outside of Dallas. If you're watching on telly, we'll show you the pictures. An Muslim-only city. This will be America's first Muslim-only city. They were going to, so basically, it's just north of Dallas, and it was going to be called Epic City, which was planned to be the epicenter of. Look at it. Looks a bit sinister, doesn't it? Massive mosque in the middle of it. The epicenter of Islam in America. Now, what it was called, it was going to, the Epic City sounds sort of grandiose name. It actually stands for the East Plano Islamic Center. So that's the initials, Epic. Epic City. But anyway, the locals in the area are protesting. No, we can't have this Muslim mega city in our midst. 2,000 people, they said, would live there initially. No, this is, 2,000 people in the nearby town of Josephine voiced their concerns in a furious protest. So the planners now have changed the name of Epic City to the far more nice-sounding The Meadow. But look, there it is. They want to build this specially just for Muslims. Now, Donald Trump ought to have a look at this because, you know, we've got our problems, but at least we're not doing this. I don't like the idea of this, do you?
No, and I also think The Meadow sounds much more creepy than Epic City, if I'm being honest. I think it reminds me of some kind of terrible horror movie. But, you know, this is what they call the clash of civilizations, and it's been creeping up on us for a long time. In other words, the Islamification of the West has been a real problem and that we've ignored, and, you know, we're starting to live with the consequences of it here, and America has not been immune to that. I don't like this because nobody's asking, where did they get the money to buy 402 acres of land from?
Yes,
because
402
that's that's a lot of money you're going to need. Where's that money come from? I think we should start looking at that. But also, one of the people behind it is one of these very radical cleric hate preachers, and has got some very questionable opinions when it comes to women, gays, and all the rest of it. And he's rather sympathetic, shall we say, to Hamas. Yeah. You know, you've got to start looking behind the people who are at the front of it and where the money's coming from. That's my thing.
On the face, I agree with you, but on the face of it, just look at it.
The mosque in the centre of it, I find.
10,000. Look at the size of the mosque. 10,000 people are slated to live there. As you say, they've purchased 402 acres of land. And you wonder what life would be like in this city. Presumably there'd be strict Muslim rules.
Yeah.
Presumably women wouldn't be able to show their faces and so on and so forth. This would become, you know, almost like a kind of caliphate in the middle of free America. This would be strict Muslim rules operating in America. And I think that Donald Trump, the people of America and the people of Texas, I see it's got a golf course.
Yeah.
I bet you hasn't got a ladies' golf course. Yeah. A football pitch there, baseball pitch. So, you know, all the trimmings. Donald Trump, the people of America, people of Texas, particularly the people in Josephine, just north of Texas, I think they should worry about this. I'm not saying that Muslims shouldn't live in America.
No.
I'm not saying that Muslims shouldn't live in Britain. Of course they should and can and should be able to. But if they're going to form their own communities that no one else is allowed into, you know, if you're going to live in a country, integration is all. You have to integrate. Not saying you have to start going to the Catholic Church or anything like that. Of course, you can pursue your own religion and your own cultures, but you have to be amenable to the culture, the host culture of the country that you're in. This is just I said earlier, used the word sinister. I think this is sinister.
Yeah, without a doubt. If you remember, most of American history has actually been a fight for integration. This is somewhat of a slap in the face for that fight as well. You know, we have to kind of remember that, like you said, bringing people together and integrating the big melting pot is the idea of America, and this is the complete antithesis of it.
That's another good point.
It's a very dangerous path that people are wandering down, thinking, oh, well, they can only have their own little place. I hate to admit it, but, you know, bad things can happen when other people aren't watching, and I can imagine this could be somewhat of a hotbed for radicalism and a kind of streak of Islam that we don't particularly like, because it will go unchecked.
Yeah, and here's the deal, Mr. Trump, if you're watching, I'm sure you are, I know he's a big fan of the show. You warn us about Sharia law, and you're quite right to warn us about Sharia law, and you're quite right to warn us about the threat of civilization on Eurasia. I'm with you all the way. But have a look at your own country, because if you allow this Muslim mega city, Muslims only, to be built in the middle of Texas, let me tell you, I'll tell you which law will prevail there. It won't be American law, it won't be federal law, it won't be state law, it'll be Sharia law, won't it?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, let's look at the problems of, the women's rights won't exist, you know, kids will be in burqas. It'll be like everything that we warn about in one single place, and for Trump just to rather ignore this, I think is a problem. I know Governor Abbott of Texas has been railing against this, but Texas does have one of the biggest growing populations for Muslims in America. They are gravitating to Texas, and it is a big problem.
I didn't know that.
I have to admit, it's quite interesting. Texas's change demographically is a big problem when it comes for the people that already live there.
So if they do if they remake that series Dallas, could have a whole new feel about it, couldn't it? You know. JR, you know.
I was just thinking that. Who shot JR?
Yeah, Sue Ellen in a hijab. That kind it's like, you know, the possibilities are endless. No, but seriously, folks, what do you think about that? A Muslim mega city, Muslims only, in the middle of Texas. The locals are campaigning against it, but there's a lot of money behind it. 10,000 people, 402 acres. It was called Epic City, now called The Meadow. What would you think if somebody proposed a city or a town like that in the middle of Britain? What do you think about it in Texas? But suppose somebody had the same idea here. Let me know. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about Meghan Markle. It bears discussion tonight because her poor old dad, Thomas Markle Sr., who's been living in the Philippines, he's had a tough time since she sent him to Siberia. Hasn't spoken to him since just before she got married in 2018. So that's 7 years, because he had the temerity, or he made the mistake, if you like, of posing for pictures for a paparazzi photographer, spoke to the press. That broke some kind of golden rule as far as she's concerned, and she used to be close to him. She hasn't spoken to him since. So he's never met his grandchildren, he's never met his son-in-law Harry. Very weird. So she literally won't speak to him. He's been distraught about it. He's kind of used to it now. So he moved to the Philippines not so long ago, and he's been through a lot since then. Since the wedding, he's had a heart attack, 2 strokes, just survived an earthquake. The apartment building he lives in the Philippines, you know, fell down, but he survived okay. And now he's in hospital in intensive care, fighting for his life. He's had surgery on a blood clot, and so bad so is his condition that he's had to now have one of his legs amputated. His son, Thomas Markle Jr., is there with him, and we've been saying surely now. Look, Thomas Markle Sr., I don't say this with any relish, but let's face it, the guy is fighting for his life. He's teetering on the edge. Doctors have told his son that he could die here. He's had his leg off now. Is Meghan going to show a slither of humanity and reach out to him in his hour of need? That's what we'll talk about after the break. Stay tuned.
the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Listen, I spoke to Kinsey Schofield last night about this life or death drama involving Thomas Markle Sr., Thomas Markle, 81-year-old father of Meghan Markle, who she hasn't spoken to for 8 years in a sort of furious family feud. A lot of people saying she's cruel, she's heartless. Some even saying she's evil. She's got to phone his dad now. He might go. He might go. It's just had his leg amputated. I asked Kinsey Schofield last night on this very show whether she thought that Meghan would show this slither of humanity. Here's what Kinsey had to say. I think is a real matter of urgency. I think the world is looking. That guy is on the edge. He's 81 years old. He loved his daughter. They were very close. She hasn't spoken to him for 7 years. We're looking for Meghan Markle now in her father's hour of need for a slither of humanity. Get in touch. Reach out. Fly over there. For God's sake, it's your father. Do you think she'll do it?
No. I feel like there's nothing in it for her. She says in the Netflix series that she's lost her father.
Yeah, we talked about that for some time. I think you can find that on YouTube. It was quite a discussion, but Kinsey, who follows these royal matters intricately, she just says that Meghan will not do that. Don't you think that's extraordinary?
I find that extraordinary. I know families are complicated and all the rest of it, but I have to admit, I think it's a little bit sick, if I'm being honest. Even if she wanted to do it as a kind of, look at me reconnecting with my father, there is a kind of spin you could put on it if she wanted to. But like you said, the man is on death's door, if not kind of peeking through it. And it just for her just to seem so cold.
Yeah.
I know we talk about her in a quite a malicious way, most of the press, but this kind of proves what a lot of people say about her, and I don't think she's helping herself with any of this. And I
don't think the press is necessarily malicious. She gets a lot of bad press, but she bloody well deserves it.
Yeah, that's true. And I think this is kind of proof of that, actually, that, it's her actions that lead people to call her the things that they do.
Yeah. And so she's very interested in her image. She's very interested in being beloved all around the world. She wants to have millions of fans so she can flog expensive tat to them and make terrible TV shows on Netflix. I just watched her holiday special.
Why?
Oh, well, for work. I didn't do it as a matter of pleasure. Let me assure you, I had to write a review. I review, by the way, on What Just Happened, my show at 9 p.m. You'll get my review. It's not a good one. I can give you that sneak preview. So she wants to do all this stuff, wants to be popular. I mean, does she have any idea, even on a cynical publicity basis, does she have any idea, Pete, how bad the optics are of a daughter who used to be very close to her dad, who in effect is prepared to just let him die on the other side of the world and not even bother to put a call in and to make it look as if she doesn't give a damn? Does she have any idea how bad that looks?
No, because she doesn't think about anybody outside of herself.
Yeah, she's a narcissist.
She's a narcissist, and that's her main problem. That's why she will never get the love and admiration that she so desperately wants, is because people see her for what she is. And this incident will only compound that, and if not, kind of write everything that everybody said about her to be perfectly correct. People want, like, when it comes to families, that people want that moment of when there is a serious situation that the people do come together. And I think that she has messed this up in a way that I think there is no coming back from it now. I have to admit, I'm not one that follows the Markles at all, but this one, it just makes you feel awful.
I am one who follows the Markles for professional reasons, and it's not an easy task sometimes. Listen, we're going to go to break now. 8 o'clock news coming up. When we come back, we're going to talk to an author who's written a book about Russia and Europe, how Europe will defend itself in the future. But we're going to get to the heart of the matter. We're going to talk about Donald Trump, the man, his wealth, his sex life. What is going on now in Moscow? Is he prepared for a life without war? Doesn't look like it. We'll talk about all of that when we come back. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In about half an hour or so, we're going to start taking your calls. 03444991000. And then at 9 o'clock, as I say, and through to 10 o'clock, it's my show, What Just Happened. Lots of discussion about Meghan and her dad. Also, we talk about Trump and his migration crackdown. Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, of their very, very strong words in the wake, in the slipstream of that horrific shooting in Washington last week by an Afghani migrant who was allowed into the country in 2021, September 2021, under Joe Biden's Operation Allies Welcome Scheme. Donald Trump basically saying they're not welcome anymore. He's closing the gates, closing the borders. Name 19 countries, total travel bans, total migration bans. Says he's going to come up with 11 more. So all that is on the show. Lots and lots of jokes, lots and lots of bad ads. Oh, I could go on. Well, I already am going on, aren't I? So I better stop. Right, let's get to our next guest. We want to talk about Russia now. I want to talk about Putin. Our guest is Keir Giles, and he's written a book called Who Will Defend Europe? An Awakening Russia and a Sleeping Continent. The Times describes this new book as a blistering account of our defence shortcomings. Welcome back to the show, Keir.
Hello again, Kevin.
Before we get to your book, can we talk a little bit about Vladimir Putin, the man? I mean, because in essence, this war is because of him. It's because of his personality. It's because of his KGB background, his belief in the Soviet Empire. It's because of him. I think it's got a lot, the prolonged nature of this conflict has got a lot to do with Vladimir Putin's personality. And we're going to play a bit of video of J.D. Vance, who I think made a really interesting point. You know, these talks this week broke down, Steve Witkoff sort of storming out. We hear that actually Putin is a little worried about this threat by America of imposing what you might call super sanctions. He is a bit frightened about that. That's what we hear anyway. But J.D. Vance on Air Force One talked to the media, and he made this really interesting point. He said that Putin's fear of ending that Putin might be fearful, afraid of ending the war, because Russia's economy, Russia's culture almost, has become intertwined with this conflict, and he cannot envisage what a Russia without this war would be like. If I'm not putting that very well, characteristically, here's J.D. Vance, who puts it much better than me. Let me know what you think about this.
Yeah, I think honestly that President Putin, he doesn't quite know how to get out of the war. If you think about this, he's got 1 million men under arms. He's re-engineered his entire economy. What used to be manufacturing facilities making, products for people to use in their civilian life, they're now making tank shells and artillery shells and drones. And so this is a little bit of guess, but I think the president would agree that part of this is I'm not sure that Vladimir Putin has a strategy himself for how to unwind the war, of course, that's been going on for a few years now. And I think there's also just a little bit of, look, there's fundamental mistrust between Russia and the West. It's one of the things the president thinks is frankly stupid, that we should be able to move beyond the mistakes that have been made in the past, but that takes two to tango. I know the president's willing to do that, but if Russia's not willing to do that, then we're eventually just going to have to say, this is not our war. It's Joe Biden's war. It's Vladimir Putin's war. It's not our war. We're going to try to end it, but if we can't end it, we're eventually going to say, you know what, that was worth a try, but we're not doing it anymore.
Last question. Oh, no, you don't.
Which Keir, of course, brings into sharp focus the reason for your book. If America pulls out, Europe's going to have to defend itself, may well have to pursue this war on behalf of Ukraine without American assistance. But before we get to that, what about that interesting point that J.D. Vance makes there, that part of Putin's evident reluctance to end this war is he can't really see how Russia could function without the war. Its economy has become intertwined with the war. You know, most of its industry is now wrapped around producing tanks and weapons. You know, money comes out of that. Their economy is, for the people who live there, isn't in that bad a shape. What do you think about that?
Well, the economy is in bad shape, but it's being sustained by the fact that the war is ongoing and consuming so much of what Russia is producing, and they're throwing vast quantities of money at recruiting people to throw into the meat grinder in Ukraine. So it is a self-sustaining bubble, and it is going to be difficult for Putin to extricate himself from that. But then, of course, we have to remember that he's not shown any inclination to actually want to do that.
That's my point. Of course, it's not a great economy. But what economy it does have, what economic sort of semi-health it has, depends on the war. If the war ends, that economy really does crash. And so that may be one of the main reasons Putin doesn't want a peace deal.
It's one of the reasons, of course, but the other reason is that Russia thinks it will get more from fighting on than it will from accepting the terms that the United States is trying to enforce on Ukraine. They still think that they will get better results from grinding forward on that front line and trying to pulverize Ukraine night after night than by accepting the freezing of the conflict, the settling those front lines and being granted control over those areas that they occupy at the moment. So they continue to fight. And of course, it's not just Ukraine that is in the firing line for this. There are all the other campaigns that are going on across Europe, and that longer-term plan of Putin's to redraw the borders of the whole of Eastern Europe, and that's why the UK and its European allies have to be involved in this and why they should be most concerned.
And tell us about our depleted defences. Now, as J.D. Vance said, you know, unless Putin gets around the table and sort of comes to some kind of agreement about ending this conflict, America may fairly soon decide, well, it's not our war, we're out of there. At that point, this coalition of the willing will have to form itself, won't it? Except for the fact I've just got this feeling that when push comes to shove, the coalition of the willing will, on many nations' parts, become the coalition of the unwilling. I can't really see Germany getting all that involved. I'm dubious about France. And when you come to countries like Spain and Italy, I mean, come on. So tell us about your book. Tell us about just how unready you think Europe is in terms of its defence generally, but in terms of going it alone, supporting Ukraine.
Well, it depends, of course, what the United States means by walking away and leaving us to it. If it's going to be benign neglect and just stopping trying to force Ukraine to surrender to Russia's terms, but letting everything else continue as it was before, letting Europe buy arms for Ukraine, letting Europe slowly build up its own capacity to face Russia, and, of course, providing those other forms of support, intelligence support, for example, then that's a better outcome than what the United States is trying to do at the moment. Take these Russian-drafted surrender terms and try to end the conflict on Russia's terms and cementing Russia's gains. If, on the other hand, it means something different, which is walking away from Europe altogether and washing its hands of any intertwining with European security and defense, that's a whole other problem. And it's interesting to read just overnight, we've seen the release of the United States' new national security strategy, which has got a lot of people on edge in Europe because it's portraying the main threat to Europe not being Russia, but actually being the EU and its ideologies, and it's talking about regime change. So we've got a problem from both East and West now in terms of people that want to effectively rearrange Europe, not the way that we thought the continent was going to run. And in the middle of all of that, you've got the after effects of 30 years of defense drawdowns from militaries right across the continent, except on its very eastern frontier, particularly here in the UK, which is now accelerating rapidly backwards compared to the rest of Europe. They are trying to invest rapidly as fast as they can in building up their defences in order to go it alone, whereas the UK hasn't been showing that same willingness to do it, and you've still got lip service and accountancy fudges instead of real change.
Yeah, now I haven't had the chance to read your excellent book, but will, of course, as soon as I can. All I've got is the publicity bump, and there's one sentence towards the end of it that fascinates me. Perhaps you could talk about it. It says that Giles, that's you, calls for new leadership in defence of Europe as the US steps aside, and warns, and this is the bit that really interests me, that the UK's brief opportunity to set the pace has already been squandered. First of all, what do you mean by new leadership in defence of Europe?
Well, let's look at what's happening across the continent. It's those countries that are closest to Russia, understand it best, that are putting the most resources into making sure that they're ready to face Russia without the United States and potentially without the whole of NATO behind them. It's Poland, which is massively increasing its defense budget. It's Finland, which is building on its tradition of total defense, comprehensive defense, keeping people alive when Russia is trying to make sure that they are not, keeping the economy functioning, society going, all of those things that grind to a halt in countries that aren't protected as soon as Russia starts to attack them. Now, we saw this week from the Dawn Sturgis inquiry how a tiny attack that tragically tragically impacted British citizens, but only a tiny number of them, consumed practically the whole resources of the British state in terms of intelligence and investigative resources, and a massive drain on the health service, law enforcement, etc. Now, imagine for a moment that that is expanded to the hundreds of people, and you can see how you can have a catastrophic impact on a country like this just from a very small investment of risk and resources by a country like Russia. So we need to look to those places that have focused on protecting themselves, not just conventional defense, not just building up the means to resist Russian attack in conventional means, but also protecting people, protecting society. That's where the leadership has to come from, and we're a long, long way behind.
But what form would this leadership take? Would it be like similar to NATO but not NATO, as it were, a kind of subdivision or something like that, excluding America? Would it have offices? Would it have a HQ? People running it? What form would the leadership take?
Well, let's take that example of the coalition of the willing that you mentioned a moment ago. In theory, there already was a coalition of the willing. It was called the Joint Expeditionary Force. It was a British-led group of 10 nations within Europe, across the top of Europe, the countries that more or less think alike about the Russian threat and how to deal with it. It's sometimes referred to as the coalition of northern beer-drinking nations. And it had everything that the coalition was supposed to have. It had a deployable headquarters. It had a framework for plug-and-play forces from different countries. It existed, ready to go off the shelf. But then it never got mentioned. And we've had these rounds of talks about how to set up something new which replicates that, based on the contributions from those countries that actually seem to be both willing and able. And it turns out that that doesn't appear to be the UK. We had that rapid turnaround from Keir Starmer back in February, the first time this came up, because let's not forget we've been round the houses on this several times already. Within 48 hours, he went from saying, yes, of course, there has to be a stabilizing force in Ukraine made up of European countries with Britain and France in the lead, to actually, no, sorry, we can't do it without the Americans. And the suspicion is that somebody finally had an honest word and got through to Keir Starmer about what was left of the British armed forces after they've been reduced again and again over 3 decades, to the point where they're now not willing to, or not able to fulfill the political task that he's putting in front of them. Right. So we need to look to those countries that have actually taken defense seriously to be the leadership, to provide that core of a coalition that will actually make a difference and be relevant to the defense future of Europe.
Yeah, well, you know about that nursery rhyme, don't you? That everywhere that little Keir went, the U-turn was sure to follow. It usually takes about 24 hours before he completely changes his mind. So
yeah, it's the other Keir.
But I think Keir Starmer, one of the reasons Britain has squandered its chance to set the pace is because of Keir Starmer himself. I mean, he's just not a leader, so we have a problem there. And what he says one day, you know, lasts until the next day, and then he'll say something else. So that does not help. Can we talk a little bit about Putin himself? What do you say to, I mean, this mysterious man who we hear through his many decades of supreme power in Russia, you know, has siphoned off the taxes, siphoned off national funds, to the extent that there is talk that he may be the most wealthy man on the face of the planet. Do you buy into that?
It's entirely possible, but there's one thing that we have to get very clear when we're thinking about Russia and the way Putin is running it and the direction he's taken the country in. It's not just Putin. It's not just Putin that is inventing these dreams of empire. It's not just Putin that wants to go to war against his neighbors to bring Russia back to the Russia of their imaginings. And it's not just Putin that operates a system that creams off national wealth and hands it out to his buddies. It's an entire self-sustaining system that Putin is just the manager of. He's the top of the pyramid in the sense that he keeps everything else stable beneath him. So we shouldn't ascribe everything that's going on in Russia just to one man. And that includes, of course, the invasion of Ukraine and that ambition to dismember other countries around the periphery. If you look around Russia, you see that people are fully in favor of this. And not just that, but the behavior of Russia's armed forces and its individual soldiers in that war. They're cheering Russian soldiers on to commit more and better genocide in Ukraine because they think this is the way to go. Putin hasn't invented any of this stuff. He is just the figurehead. He's just the most visible emblem of all of that, and it includes, of course, stealing all of the national wealth and becoming fabulously wealthy himself in the process.
Yeah, because he has, for example, that enormous country house. What do they call them in Russia? I mean, the dachas.
Well, in this case, it's a palace, but
yeah, it's a sort of a dacha on steroids, isn't it? This enormous place. Now, my last sort of question to you, really, characteristically shallow. What about these stories? A book came out recently that he leads this sort of double life of secrets, including this kind of very colourful sex life. That, for example, at that palace, his country palace, you know, he keeps a harem of beautiful women for his pleasure and his friends' pleasure. Do you think there's anything in this? Because this guy, one thing you can say about Putin, I would imagine in Russia, what he wants, he gets.
Yeah, I don't know that much about Putin's sex life, not the intimate details. I don't particularly want to.
I don't want to know the intimate details.
However, we do know that he has a number of mistresses, has had a number of mistresses, and has a number of children scattered around the world. In fact, some in Paris. He has a daughter there who quite recently was interviewed, not with her permission, and the family resemblance to Putin is very clear. And some of those have been quite high-profile relationships. None of them are particularly strenuously denied, although if you get too close to reporting on it, if you're a Russian newspaper, you find yourself shut down and people start falling out of windows.
Yes, exactly.
It's a pretty well-established family tree that Putin has with a number of different women over different periods, some of them overlapping, and yeah, it might be going too far to call it a harem, but then we don't know what goes on inside those palaces.
I said that was my last question, but this is my last question. The talk, the reports, the rumours of his health. Do you think he's sick? Do you think he's may not be long for this world?
There's plainly something wrong with him, but it appears to come and go. Now, if you watch far too much of Putin on video like I do, if you watch him, you know, day after day, you can see the patterns. You can see there are times when he's very weak, he's plainly very ill, he's bloated, he's puffy, he can barely stand, he has to grip onto the table, and his speeches are very short, 5 minutes maximum. And then he bounces back to health. He's looking younger, fitter, he can stand on his feet and talk for ages. So something comes and goes. Now, I'm not a medical expert and I don't know what it is, but he's plainly not a well man. Whether that means he's going to keel over tomorrow or not, who knows?
We'll keep our fingers crossed, eh? Just a last point. This is what his mistress, Alina Kebeva, a gymnast. I wonder what he saw in her. She was once dubbed Russia's most flexible woman.
I think you're trying to answer your own question.
Yeah, I think that's the answer is inherent in the question. Listen, Keir, thank you so much. That was fascinating. When does who will defend Europe and awakened Russia and a sleeping continent? It's out there now, yes?
It was out in paperback last week.
Okay, available at all the usual outlets, I'm sure, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Keir, thank you for coming on, and come on again soon. That was Keir Giles and his amazing book. Fascinating stuff, though. You know, what inside of Russia, what is going on? And I do think a lot of, well, I think it's not an exaggeration, it's hardly a leap of brilliance to say that Putin's personality is what's started this war, what fuels this war. He is at the heart of all of this.
Definitely. But the one thing I would say is when we do need to have a new kind of impassioned defence of Europe, well, we not just need it militarily, we also need it culturally. We have to start believing in ourselves that we're actually worth defending. I think this is a big problem, that we've started to denigrate ourselves from within, and I think that is a huge problem. And unfortunately, like you said, Keir Starmer's not a leader, so I'm not going to hold my breath. But it is always interesting that Russia is a very closed-off society. They don't like to air dirty laundry. And, you know, he's right. If you start digging around with Russians, you do end up falling out of a window very often. You say, you know, we have to say that, you know, that our culture, that Europe, that Britain and all the countries are worth defending. Yes, we have to come to that conclusion. We have to reach that conclusion, hopefully now or pretty damn quickly. Yesterday would have been
and
good.
then we have to work out how the hell we're going to do it.
Yes.
Because right now, Europe, particularly Britain, we can't defend ourselves. Yeah, if you took all of our armed forces, they wouldn't fill Wembley Stadium.
It's about 2 Ubers, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They wouldn't fill a transit van.
Yeah.
No, that's an exaggeration. Yeah. Listen, while the show's been going on, we've become rather fascinated by this extraordinary Netflix takeover of Warner Brothers. Massive studio, massive library of filmic and television content. Netflix has just bought Warner Brothers for £54 billion. A massive, massive deal. Surely one of the biggest commercial deals in history, and certainly in the entertainment industry. And imagine what a behemoth that turns Netflix into.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, eat your heart out, Disney.
I know. Don't forget, Disney bought out quite a few not so long ago.
They bought out Fox, didn't they?
Yeah. So it is interesting how a lot of these are kind of consolidating, and it's whether the competition regulations will allow half of this.
Well,
stuff,
it's America. It's a lot easier over there. And here's the deal: the reason that Rupert Murdoch, who owns Talk, of course, the reason that he sold Fox. For a lot of money, was that he saw, and a lot of people, or his vision was, and a lot of people believe this, that and it's happening, I think, that the entertainment industry would be 1, 2, maybe 3 behemoths. Massive corporations with no room for smaller operations. Yeah. And massive, though, Fox, 20th Century Fox, or Fox as it became when we entered the 21st century, massive though Fox film and television was, he didn't think it could actually compete, because if he wanted to survive, he'd have to buy Netflix or something like that. But what's also interesting about this massive deal in Hollywood is it confirms that, you know, the age of traditional films, sitcoms, series, dramas, you know, tune in at 9 o'clock, big terrestrial channels, NBC, CBS, over here, BBC, that's over. That is over. This is a streaming giant, has bought Warner Brothers, a traditional film and television producer, and what they're going to do is stream all the content. They've all got Harry Potter,
that's the
you
point.
name it.
Lord of the
massive franchises. They're going to stream it. So something happened today, folks. It's the changing of the guard in the entertainment industry, and we think we'll have a chat about that next, so stick around.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, yeah, we've become instantly fascinated with this massive Hollywood deal, massive showbiz industry deal that the Netflix, the streaming giant Netflix, proving that streaming is now where it's at in the industry, in entertainment industry, has just bought Warner Brothers Studios, the legendary Warner Brothers Studios. Now, what's interesting, by the way, just a little matter of £54 billion. £54 billion. That is massive. Now, what's interesting about it is Netflix aren't really buying Warner's because they can make movies and they can make TV series. Sure, they'll carry on doing that to an extent. Netflix wants their content, wants what they own. They own Harry Potter. They own Game of Thrones. And they're going to stream the crap out of all that. And they'll make more series. They'll make Dumbledore, the spin-off, and all that stuff. So we happen to have a top-flight entertainment journalist in our midst. And he's come into the studio to talk a little bit about this. Ethan Sills. Welcome, Ethan.
Evening.
What's the deal here? Tell me, first of all, not so long ago, the Disney Corporation was regarded as the biggest sort of showbiz outfit in the world. It recently sort of assimilated or bought great swathes of the Fox empire, Rupert Murdoch's empire, the film and television unit, 20th, or what used to be 20th Century Fox. So that was a massive deal. That made Disney huge. Does this deal, the assimilation, the purchase of Warner Brothers and all its content, make Netflix the biggest showbiz outfit in the world?
I think it makes it the biggest streaming outfit in the world now.
Wasn't it already that?
Well, I think there's been so many competitors now coming up, including Warner Brothers. They did HBO Max, which has had, 3 name changes. Once Warner Brothers and Discovery merged, then merged and made HBO Max this big deal. You've got Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime, all these other ones. Okay. But once you put Netflix and HBO Max together, you're just going to have probably about 50% of the market's going to be covered by one company.
50%?
Close to it. So
does this, in terms of streaming, because streaming, you say this is about streaming. Well, streaming is basically where it's at now.
Yeah.
I mean, production, fine. It's having content and streaming it. That's where the business is now. So what will the competitors be thinking about this? When you say they got 50% of the market, I mean, the others must be quaking in their boots, aren't they?
Well, that's why there was this big battle to take Warner Brothers, Paramount and Comcast, which owns Universal, were all in the mix as well. Yeah. Paramount wanted to snatch up the entire thing. Comcast and Netflix just wanted the studio and the major cable channels, so the CNN and the like, that's sort of being cast off to the side as part of this deal. Someone else will probably pick those up at some point, but the big player here was getting the studio and the streaming service so they can just bolster what everyone else has.
Okay, so run through just what Netflix purchased in terms of the franchises.
Well, the big
Harry Potter,
Game of Thrones, DC, those are the huge ones they're going to get. There's a lot of some of the like classic movies are going to come in here, like Casablanca. That's a Warner Brothers movie that now Netflix will be able to do whatever they want with. You could have a fun 2025 version of that.
Can we say then that Netflix and Warner Brothers, this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship? See what I did there? That's why I get the big bucks.
Of all the Jim joints in all the world, I had to walk into this one.
No, that doesn't work.
Well, I think the key thing with this, as you said before, like this means that, like, if they're having that IP, means they can do whatever they want with it. You can look at what happened with Amazon in buying MGM the other year. That meant they got James Bond. The only thing they've done so far with that is doing a reality show. But after the Broccolis sold off the rest of the rights to Amazon, they can now go and make a Money Penny series and a Q series if they want to, and it's going to be the same thing here. You've already got 2 Game of Thrones spin-offs. You could move into movies now with that. Harry Potter, this big, 7-part TV series reimagining the books is coming in the next 2 years. That's going to be on Netflix now if this all goes through, and that's going to be a huge player for them, because the big thing for Netflix is they only have really Stranger Things when it comes to big IP. They don't really have any,
is that right?
They don't have any other, like, none of their fantasy movies have really taken off in a way to turn into franchises or anything. And the last episode of Stranger Things is coming on New Year's Eve this month, so that means after that's done, they don't really have any of those other big fantasy, aside from Wednesday, I guess, but they're not really seeing that much come from that in terms of merchandise. So Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, DC, those are the ones that they really want to add to their library and get those merchandise rights and all the spin-offs and everything.
Do you think £54 billion was a good deal?
I mean, I think it was similar to what Disney paid for Fox in the end. I think that was somewhere in the 70 billion US as well, so it would work out the same. The key thing here, though, is that everyone's quite angry about this.
Why are they angry? Tell me that.
Well, because the big concern is that that you're just going to have a consolidation of the market. You're not going to have as many competitors out there. That's where the Democrats and Republicans seem to be concerned about it not being as good for the market and
competitiveness makes for better products.
And I guess it's cheaper for consumers as well. The Writers' Union has come out against this because they're concerned about what it means for entertainment.
The Writers' Union come out against everything.
Well, yes, they do.
So will the Actors' Union. They'll be against it. They're against everything as well.
But the big concern as well is what this means for the cinematic output. Warner Brothers has actually been quite a big player in the theatrical market this year. The Minecraft movie, One Battle After Another. They actually had quite a few big hits this year in cinemas, and if this goes...
But won't that continue? Warner's presumably will continue to function as a studio,
that's
only owned by Netflix, right?
Netflix is telling everyone that. I don't think anyone quite believes them, though, because they haven't been that keen on the theatrical releases so far. You saw that earlier this year where K-pop Demon Hunters,
my favourite
I imagine you're watching it every weekend.
It was huge, wasn't it?
It was huge, and they put it in the cinemas for a sing-along special a few months ago, and Netflix refused to confirm the box office results because they don't want to talk about that. They only wanted people to come and stream on their platform.
So does this mean, or would the fear be that most of the money will go into TV series rather than big screen cinema productions?
Probably. I think the concern is that they're just going to focus on the streaming product rather than the theatrical experience, and that's been hard hit since COVID. The box office returns this year, they thought they were going to be good last year, and they've been falling down. So
I was just going to say, can I ask a quick? Does this affect the game side of things, the video games? Because I was going to say they have quite some big titles under Warner Brothers, and are they moving to Netflix with them as well, or is this just purely film and TV?
But that's the deal. I mean, you get the franchise, you can do what
you get everything. So I'm going to say, because the video game industry is massive, and it's often bigger than Hollywood at times, and I was just curious if they get all of it, or if it's just the one bit that they've got.
Well, I'm not across 100% of the details, but I do imagine that given the merchandise rights and things do tend to be tied up with
this is all about owning the franchise. And then you can do what the hell you like.
Yeah.
And sometimes, by the way, it goes the other way. If you think of Fast and Furious, I think they've made about 400 of those films now.
Yeah.
I used to be a film critic. I reviewed the first one. And that was a video game that they changed into a film, Super Mario Brothers, the same thing. But the name of the game now in showbiz is this deal, this mega deal proves it's owning the titles, owning the franchises. Then you can do
the catalogue.
Yeah.
There was an estimation I was reading about the other week that Stranger Things has brought in somewhere around $1 billion to Netflix over the, it's been on for 9 years. You've got a Broadway play out of it as well, and you've seen so many fast food chains and stores doing branded deals with the new season coming back. That's what they want at the moment, all these studios. You just want IP that you can turn into other products, turn them into theme park rides. Disney's basically a theme park business. It's not really a movie studio. They just turn things and oh, that did well, let's do a new ride in 10 years'
That's
time.
the thing, isn't it? You get a sort of hit series now called Stranger Things, and before too long, you're in London and you go, come to the Stranger Things experience. So you get the stage play, then you get the experience, then you get the hats, then you get the bathroom products. Yeah, exactly right. Showbiz, when it's successful, always has been a license to print money.
I'm from New Zealand, and our tourism industry has been built on Lord of the Rings for most of the last 20 years. And they're getting the film rights as well. That'll be one of the things that Netflix will pick up. So
what would you do? I'd never heard of New Zealand until Game of Thrones, until Peter Jackson came along. But then again, nor did anyone else. So that's the way it goes. That's a joke, folks. That's a joke. Were you there when Jacinda was were you living there then?
Yes, I was, yeah.
Well, how was that? I mean, talking about hermit kingdoms and the Lord of the Rings and things, what was it like living in the hermit kingdom during the COVID crisis?
It was fine for them, until the second big lockdown. I was in Auckland until when the...
You mean when she locked you in your rooms, you weren't even allowed to go between rooms?
Yeah, you weren't allowed to leave the Shire.
You were allowed to leave your room. It was a staged, managed thing, but...
Jacinda Ardern, for all her faults, she gifted us with great comedy, I thought.
It might surprise people, though, that the current parties in charge are sort of doing a lot worse in the polling than she ever did.
Well, but she has the kind of policies that people liked, but I'm not so sure they liked her sort of COVID fascism, which was extraordinary. Listen, Ethan, fantastic, really good. And Ethan works it. Yeah. We just got him out of the office. Why go anywhere else? The brilliant Ethan Sills, entertainment journalist, on this mega deal. 54 billion quid. Netflix just paid for Warner Brothers. What do you reckon of that? 03444991000. We've kind of run over. Little time left for your calls when we come back. So if you want to talk about that, by all means, give us a call. Or anything else. Nigel Farage, question time last night. Russia. And this Muslim mega city in Texas. Don't like the idea of that, do you? 03444991000. All of that next. You next. Right here on Talk. You better stick around.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, we're going to take your calls in just a second, but before that, in, well, about 15-20 minutes after the 9 o'clock news, it is my show, What Just Happened. That starts at 9 o'clock, and here's a clip. But this is about little children. You know, and I don't think we should be polluting the minds of little children with dross from people called Tanya Lecoq, a bloke dressed up as a caricature of a woman.
Would they allow a burlesque, you know, attractive woman to do a, burlesque routine? Of course they wouldn't.
There's Ash Gould there, Samara Gill's on the show as well. We were discussing this upcoming children's play at Richmond Theatre to the west of London. It's on December the 19th, and it's a special children's show for kids 5 years old and under, hosted by Tanya Lecoq. And in case you think I'm saying a naughty word there, you spell it Lacoq, as in the French for chicken. It's a, you know, should they be doing a show like that for children, hosted by someone called Tanya Lecoq? I don't think so. Drag queens? I don't think they should be anywhere near little kids. I think they want to sexualise these little kids. All wrong, all wrong. Let's go straight to the phones. That's 9 o'clock, by the way. Lots of other stuff on as well. A lot of fun, some serious stuff as well. Mostly not, though. No, we talk about Meghan and her problems, and also Harry. Harry's been on the telly over there making a fool of him. So that couple, give us a break. The gruesome twosome, the stuff of nightmares. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Karen in Bournemouth. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Peter.
Hey. What you want to talk about Zia Yusuf? He got ganged up on, didn't he?
Well, I mean, I think when I used to work in schools, I used to work with 10-year-old kids. They could have debated better. But you've got Zach the Grifter Polanski, Dozy Cooper and Mike the Dripping Tap, all ganging up together going, oh, we're going to be really nasty to Zia. And I thought he kept his cool pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know where they bust all those people that were supposed to be Greens from, but... Yeah. I doubt it was Dover.
I mean, the more I was thinking about that show last night, apart from the content and what people were saying, that panel, you know, had people on it, you know, like Daisy Cooper, Mike Tapp, the idiotic Dover MP who's just comically stupid, and Zach Polanski. So you got three people there that, you know, I don't ask for much in life. You know, I'm a simple man. My needs are not extensive, so I don't ask for much in life. But I do ask this, Karen. Please, God, can I never meet Daisy Cooper, Zach Polanski or Mike Tapp? Is that all right, your lordship? You know what I mean?
I think you'll be saving yourself a lot if you don't meet them.
Exactly right, Karen. Exactly right, Karen. Listen, I've got to move on because I've got longer, but it's always good to hear from you, and I totally agree with what you just said. Karen in Bournemouth, a regular caller. Lovely Karen. Let's go to Paolo in Italy. Hello, Paolo.
Oh, good evening, Kevin. Long time no speak. Last time we spoke, I was living in London.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Yeah, no, I moved out a couple of years ago after 46 years of living in the UK as a migrant, a legal one, I may say, you know. And I got quite upset when... you know, Polanski was saying, you know, who's going to wipe our backside? I think it was him.
Yeah, he did. No, he said, basically said, I don't want to wipe people's bums. Thank God for these migrants who come here and are prepared to do that in care homes. Very patronising towards migrants and asylum seekers for a start. And a horror, but you know, I get what he's saying. You know, the health industry, the care industry does rely on a lot of asylum seekers and migrants. But what a disgusting way of putting his point.
Well, exactly. But, you know, my point is this, right? I came here in 1980. I was young. I was a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
I couldn't speak a word of English.
Yeah.
And I did my bit. I integrated, learnt the language, did everything you had to do. Still pay tax in the UK, even though I've left. And the point I want to make is this. When we had Europeans like myself coming to the UK, the vast majority came, worked, made a life for themselves. In the last 10 years, Europeans are not coming to the UK.
They're going the other way, as you prove.
Yeah, we have, yes.
Whereabouts in Italy are you, by the way, Paolo?
Well, I live in the Alps now. I've gone...
up the north, yeah?
Up the north, 3,500, 4,000 foot up a mountain, basically.
Which place?
It's called Santa Brigida.
See, I knew I might as well have not asked.
Yeah, exactly. The funny thing is, I'm actually in the UK right now. I came back to see my parents. But the point I'm trying to make is, it's 10 years ago. There's been not many Europeans coming. It's been mainly third world countries coming here, and they don't work. They don't do. Well, some of them do, right? But they are not integrate. They don't integrate like in the old days when I came. You had to integrate in the old days, because if you didn't, you were left out. Whereas now you could come and just slot into wherever you go in the UK, and so what these guys are saying, Mr. Toothless Wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks like Plug, doesn't he, that guy? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, funny.
In the Beano, yeah.
In the Beano, yes, I remember that. That was going around when I turned up. But yeah, it's just changed.
Yeah.
And I made such an effort to integrate into British society, and guess what? I was accepted. The British people...
accepted, and now you've had to go to Italy because you've had enough. And Paolo, I've got to go because I've got a big breaking story. But good to talk to you, mate. Paolo in Italy. This is major, everybody. Thank God. The Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, has reached out to her estranged father, Thomas Markle, after reports that he has had his leg amputated following surgery in the Philippines. This is her spokesman saying this, her spokesperson. This is on the news wires now. So Meghan, thank God, she has shown that slither of humanity that we begged her to show, that we were anxious for her to show at long last. She's reached out to her father in his hour of need. He is fighting for his life in the Philippines. You know the story. He's had a blood clot surgery, and that has required the amputation of his leg. He's with his son, Thomas Markle Jr. Thank God for that as well. But well done, Meghan. Well done, Meghan, seriously, because if she had not have done that, I'd have thought, I think we all would have thought, what kind of a person is she? So once again, I'll read that again. This is a major news story. The Duchess of Sussex has, this is coming off the wires, the Duchess of Sussex has, quote, reached out to her estranged father, Thomas Markle, after reports that he had his leg amputated following surgery in the Philippines. Her spokesman has said. Now, we don't know what reached out means. I'm assuming a phone call. You get a phone call through to the hospital. He's in intensive care. But good. I would hope also, now that she's done the right thing, maybe she could get on a plane and go over and see him, because for all of this, it's touch and go. So well done, Meghan. Well done at last. And we'll keep you updated with that. We've only got about 8 minutes to go, but you never quite know what might happen. But Meghan has, we assume, has spoken to her dad. He'll be thrilled. He's been heartbroken for 7 or 8 years now, since she sent him to Siberia for posing for pictures just before her wedding to Harry in 2018. So that is some kind of good news. We still pray for Thomas Markle, and we send our best to his son. son, Thomas Michael Jr., who's a friend of the show. He's been interviewed here several times. If anything more happens in the next 10 minutes or so, we'll let you know. In the meantime, let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Syed in London, who says Nigel Farage is a racist.
Yes.
Do you actually believe that, Syed?
Yeah, actually I do.
Syed, I'm sorry, I've just made a mistake. I've got to go to break. Stay where you are. I'll come back to you.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just a few minutes to go, but Syed is still on the line. Syed, sorry to interrupt you there. You were explaining why you think Nigel Farage is a racist. Can you give me one example of Nigel Farage's racism?
Yeah, look, I think I listened to the interview from some of his class fellows from...
No. I want to confirm... No. Let's not talk about him when he was a 13-year-old schoolboy. Let's talk about him when he was a grown-up, when he was an adult, when he's a responsible adult. You know, let's not talk about... That's ridiculous to talk about him when he was a child. So, give me one example. Give me one example of Nigel Farage's racism while he's been an active adult politician.
Yes. Absolutely. I think he made his career out of...
give me an example.
Yeah. In 2014, he made a comment that he would be very worried if his neighbors were Romanian, right? What is wrong with Romanians? Is there a particular issue other than they're Eastern European, which is not good enough?
Why is it racist to say that you would be worried if your neighbours were Romanian or indeed any other race?
Yes. So, no, that is exactly the question, right?
Why is that racist?
Why does it? Because you are...
It's just a phrase, isn't it? Why is it racist?
No, it's not a phrase. No, it's not a phrase. You are labeling people of a particular country in a negative manner. And you believe that...
Are you not allowed to do that?
No, you're not allowed to do that. This sort of stereotyping has gone away with the time of Bernard Mannings and all those other people that you were talking about earlier.
Well, the BBC used to. So you think you agree then with Nigel Farage that the BBC was racist during those years?
Yeah. I think BBC.
The BBC was racist. You agree with that? Yeah.
Yeah. BBC was racist, but that doesn't give Nigel Farage an excuse to be racist. And if
the Romanian, I agree with you. That warrants discussion. We haven't got long enough to do it. Give me another example.
Yeah, look, I think he has built his career out of labelling people who are from outside the country.
So you haven't really got another example. It's just that one.
Mate, you asked me an example, I gave you an example.
Well, give me one more. Give me one more.
Okay, I think, I think he has his entire political...
So you haven't got another one?
No.
So your entire argument for calling Nigel Farage a racist is that
you
he was...
want to talk about so I think somebody talking about gas chambers and Hitler is right.
No. You're not allowed to cite when he was a little boy.
No. That little boy has become...
Oh, no.